Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. Yes! The national champions.
Welcome to Three the Hard Way Sports Podcast. From three guys who taught sports together over lunch for over 10 years. Probably eating a Fudgy the Whale in that time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Three the Hard Way Sports Podcast. I am Bryan Galloway here from Rumson, New Jersey. We have Alex Shanley. How are you, Alex?
Enjoying the madness. Been watching a lot of college basketball, a lot of the conference tournaments. So it's finally, sports is ramping up again since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it has been. And from parts unknown, we have Michael Pipersek. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great, but I have not been sucked in by the madness yet. Thank you very much, work and family life, for nothing.
Family always getting in the way.
Yeah, it's time to get sucked in now. It's time to get sucked in now. Okay, so we have a bunch of things to talk about. There's a lot of crazy stuff just happened today. Let's start off with probably the most current news. Again, I just heard it myself. John Feinstein passed away. Mike, what do you want to talk about with that?
Yeah, only at the age of 69, which I didn't realize he was that young. I guess he always kind of looked the same to me from the time I first heard of John Feinstein. So folks that are not big readers probably recognize John Feinstein's name and likeness probably more from the sports reporters, that ESPN Sunday morning show where a bunch of journalists would yell at each other for half an hour.
I love that show. That was one of my favorite
we should talk about
shows of all time.
That show would drive me crazy. But John Feinstein for me was most famous as the author of A Season on the Brink, which was
Great book.
A fantastic book where he spent the 85-86 season with Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers, got incredible access, which was really a surprise, I think, even at that time, that Bob Knight would give anyone that level of access. And that really was when people started to get an idea of what were Coach Knight's methods of coaching and motivating players. And, there were obviously some incidents in that book where he talked about Bobby Knight berating players, but then he's also very charming. I believe that might have been the season where he flung that chair across the court against Minnesota, maybe at Assembly Hall, where he got thrown out. But so he spent the 85-86 season with Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers, and that season actually ended surprisingly for them. They lost in the first round. They were upset by Cleveland State, so they were a 3 seed, upset by Cleveland State, the 14 seed, and that was probably. And I know there were a lot of sports books, but that one was a bestseller, and I think created or enhanced sports writing within books. And some other guys would start following teams around for this season. And John Feinstein, I also read a couple of his other books. Obviously, Season on the Brink is his most famous, but I also read, someone got me as a gift, a book called The Last Amateurs, where he spent the 1999-2000 season following all of the Patriot League teams around. So Bucknell, Army, Navy, American University, which at the time was coached by former Virginia coach Jeff Jones. And then he also wrote a book called A March to Madness, where he spent the 96-97 season following ACC teams around. So that year, North Carolina made the Final Four. All great books. And I'm obviously a basketball junkie, so I love those three. But I think he wrote a total of 48 books, and then two other well-known sports books he wrote were A Good Walk Spoiled, where he spent, I think, the 94-95 PGA season on tour. And then he also wrote a great book, which I haven't read, but I have wanted to read for a long time, called A Civil War, which is about the Army-Navy football rivalry, which must be a fantastic book. So a big loss for the sports media, and just a great writer. And Bryan, like you said, you read A Season on the Brink, and it was a groundbreaking book, I thought.
So my whole thing about Feinstein is, so during college sociology, my final exam senior year, I had to do a big presentation on something, and I did something sports because it was easier for me to so I actually did one on the at the time, which because it was crazy what happened. It was, it happened in 1977 when I was a child, but it was, you knew about this. So during college, I knew this happened. Kermit Washington punched Rudy Tomjanovich and almost
That's
killed him, right?
right.
Almost killed him, right? And
Yes.
and the thing about this is like that one incident changed both of their lives, and it
Mhm.
changed, and it changed basketball. It changed a lot of things. So I did this big. Actually, I might even still have. I guarantee you, I'm such a pack rat. I might even still have my. But I got an like an A+ on it. And
Mhm.
but so then after that, he put out a book called The Punch, and it really looks into it. Like, obviously, it wasn't anything like what that I did, but he did an amazing job following these people, even after after they retired, and what happened, and what happened in their lives, and how that one punch, which was crazy because if you guys knew Kermit Washington, he was a monster. He was really strong, and Rudy Tomjanovich came after him and ran up at him, and then Kermit just decked him and crushed his face and it was bad. It pretty much ruined Tomjanovich's NBA career because he was a good player. He was a darn good
Very
player.
good player. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but he just got crushed. And Kermit was a good player too, but he kind of psychologically it just ruined his career after that because he just always felt so terrible about what happened. But that's an amazing book, guys. If you haven't read that book, I recommend that wholeheartedly. And not just because I did a report on the same incident, but just because it was for me something that I had looked into, but my research as a college student was nowhere near what this guy, and his is amazing. And also he went a lot deeper because again, it was done later on where he had the time to look at what, how it affected
You
their
you may be owed
families.
royalties, Bry.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. It's funny because when he did write it the first time, I was like, "What?" But no, it's not even the same thing. But
Brian, you just jogged my memory. I think you gifted me that book, and I agree. It is an exceptional book
I thought I did
because,
give you that book. Yeah, because it
yes,
was so good. Yes.
yeah, it is like, and because they followed the what happened to each of those players afterwards, you get like kind of the long term vision of like what happened there because Tom Jonovich was a very good player, but never the same player after that incident. And I think Kermit Washington might have been kind of almost blackballed, I thought, right? Like
Well,
teams
yeah,
didn't want to go near him because they're always
and
this
also,
violent
yeah,
guy. And he was not at all.
no, he was not a violent guy at all. He was not. He just, it
Yeah.
was reaction.
I think
Somebody came
he
after
just
you.
turned
Somebody
and
came
ran into
after you.
him,
You
right?
punched somebody,
Yeah.
right? We've all been in bar fights like that. That happens. You never know what's going to happen. And
Bar
it,
fights on a basketball court?
well, just somebody comes
It was the
after you in
'70s,
basketball.
Alex. Remember the
I used
'70s
to fight
NBA?
Oh,
like crazy.
yeah. Yep.
Cocaine and bar
Yeah, that
fights.
was pretty fun. I think that year I got you that, and I got Alex the whore of Akron.
War
So
of
I got you.
Akron.
I got
I
you.
won that one, Alex.
Brutal. I got the short end of that one, dude. And I
The
read
punch
it.
was
I don't know
excellent.
But
why
at
I
the
read it,
time,
but
it
I
was a
did.
bestseller. At the
It was
time, it was in
terrible.
Barnes and Noble on their bestseller list,
It
dude. I'm
was
sorry.
terrible.
I tried. Um,
You just gave it to me because, well, whatever.
no, I didn't. I never
Your
read it.
love
I
of
just gave it.
LeBron. Your love of
It was on the
You
list. I
hate
figured.
LeBron.
I do hate LeBron. Okay, so anyway, great. I think sad. I'm sad to hear this. I just it's really sad. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's 40 books,
Well, what
48 books.
something I didn't realize. I mean, I didn't read any of John Feinstein's books, but I'm just reading his Wikipedia. It said he also wrote a sports mystery series for young adults,
Yeah.
in which the main characters, Stevie Thomas and Susan Carol Anderson, are reporting on major sporting events, including Final Four, U.S. Open, Super Bowl, World Series, etc. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And he just
I
wrote his
always
last
loved them on
book
the
last
sports
year.
reporters. I mean, I love that
Well,
show.
and he's been on Mad Dog Radio for a while too. And
Yeah.
wow, I'm sad. I'm sad to
Elevated
hear
the
this.
game. Elevated the game. He wrote a book last year about Ivy League football called The Ancient Eight, which I'm sure is a fascinating read too. He just was a great storyteller because Season on the Brink came out, 85, 86 season. He probably wrote it like a year or two later. So I was like 15, 16 years old, right? And at that time, I wasn't reading a lot. And I wanted to read that book because I was so into basketball and I got it. And it was just so engrossing. So a great storyteller. The four books that I read because I had forgotten about the punch, all four of them I thought were just exceptionally reported. very detailed, and just great stories, like all of them, like amazing.
Yeah, very, RAP, and our thoughts go out to his family. I mean, it's sad. He's too young, too young. And
Very
again, I didn't know. It doesn't say anything about him being ill or what was, if anybody knew anything that he
natural
was ill.
causes. It said,
It
yeah.
says natural causes,
What,
so I'm
na-
sure it was a
natural
heart attack
causes.
or
What does that
something.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, what? Oops, I'm dead. I mean, I don't understand natural
Oops, I'm
causes.
dead.
It means they don't want to say.
Yeah, they don't want to say something else happened. So okay. So then we have let's go. What do you want to go? Let's go next to Oliver Miller. So Oliver Miller died, and now again, people might say, "Who is Oliver Miller?" He was a darn good basketball player. He was just very overweight, extremely overweight, to a point where it was pretty bad how bad he was overweight. But he was a darn good player, and he just passed away. And yeah, Mike, you didn't even hear that, did you?
I did not. I liked Oliver Miller. Followed him a good bit at Arkansas. Helped him get to the Final Four in 1990, and he was almost like a cartoonish player, right? Because he was so rotund. Seeing him on the court, he
He was
made
way over
Charles
300
Barkley look
pounds.
small.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was 6'9", way over 300 pounds. Um,
good passer
he was a really
though.
good player in Arkansas. I remember
Yeah,
that in
very
Arkansas.
good.
He played on a lot of teams, though. If you look at his career history, so this is another interesting about it because he was always a good player. He could shoot. He
Yeah,
was big. He could rebound. He actually was a decent
passer.
defensive player,
Yeah.
but he was lumbering up and down the court. The Suns, I think he's most famous being on the Suns, but on the Pistons, Raptors, Mavericks, the Raptors again. Then he was some team called Irakalo. I don't know what that is. And he was at the Sacramento Kings. Then back to the Suns. Then he was in some Russian team, the California Surf, who I don't know who they are, the Gary Steelheads, Dodge City Legend, Dakota Wizards, Indios de Magawas, Fujan Zunig, Minnesota Timberwolves. like he played on all these other teams. Then he goes to the Timberwolves. Then he goes Dakota Wizards, Texas Tycoons, Arkansas Rim Rockers, the Arkansas River Cats.
He was a lifer.
Yeah, and then the
Right?
final
Like
in
played
2010, he
basketball
was
his
on
whole life.
2010. He played on the Lawton Fort Sill Cavalry. He I don't know. It's very very interesting guy. He was a darn good player, though. I mean, for his size, there was a period of time now. His, I think his lifetime stats will be watered down because he played. He was a bench warmer near the end of his career.
Mhm.
But when he was playing and when he was starting he was on some pretty good teams. I think he went to the final. Didn't they go to the finals one
The
year?
'93 Phoenix Suns, he was on that team. Yeah, and played with Danny Ainge and Cedric Sabalos and those guys. I mean, really good passer, as I remember.
Yes.
Good passing big man. Deceptively quick actually for such a rotund guy. Had good footwork. I
He was
really
over. They said when he came back and his comeback with the Timberwolves, he played really well too.
Mhm.
He was 315 pounds
How
playing.
much?
315 pounds.
Hmm.
That's tough, man. That's really tough. Um, but yeah, he had some good years. He definitely had some good years, and he was definitely a prominent player. One year I think he led the league in field goal percentage.
Hmm.
Yes, he did. In 1993-94, he led the league in field goal percentage. So, and he
Made
played good
Charles
in the playoffs. He played really good in the playoffs too.
Yeah, made Charles Barkley look slim on that '93
Yeah,
Suns team. Actually,
It's
yeah,
probably why they had him there.
yeah, exactly. Charles looks a little big, but that
I'm
was when
sad.
Charles was in his
I'm
best
sad.
shape.
I'm sad to hear that because he was
Yeah.
again very good player. Um,
54 years old.
Yeah, I'm guessing heart attack, right? Probably a big guy, big heart. Shame.
yeah, it's sad. Okay, and then so the other loss, which I think was very big to the NBA world for a lot of different reasons, but Junior Bridgeman passed away, which that was a shocker too because I had just seen him on something recently. Um, he was a sharp dude. After basketball, he probably did better after basketball than he did during basketball, which is another crazy
Boy,
thing.
that is an understatement, man. When
Yeah,
you look at
financially
when
just
you
killed
look
him.
at that guy's story, wow, never made more than $350,000 a season in the NBA, and he had a net worth of $1.4 billion.
Yeah.
Junior was smart. Loved
He was
Junior.
one of the wealthiest athletes in the
It's
world.
incredible. It's an incredible story. Like when I was like I had known kind of passively that Junior Bridgman was an entrepreneur, and I always thought it was McDonald's franchises that he owned, but it was actually Wendy's and Chili's. But when I was reading his bio after he passed away, they were talking about how even when he was at Louisville, where he was a great player and he was like a top 5 pick in the NBA, but while he was at Louisville, every summer he was working. He was working at Ford plants and doing all these jobs. And famously, I did not realize this. Brian, you may have known this. So he was actually drafted by the Lakers, but
Yep.
he was part of the Lou Alcindor trade.
He was part of that big trade, and we
Yes.
might have talked about that one time.
No,
So
it's
that
just
was
fascinating.
so that was a big trade where you had to trade. Where a great player got traded, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
they got back good players. It wasn't like they got back bums. Like nowadays, when you trade a player, you get these guys that are not good. They got back David Myers, Elmore
Mhm.
Smith, Brian
Brian
Winters,
Winters. Yeah.
and Junior Bridgeman. They had 4
Yeah.
good players, and again, it was for Kareem. But the Bucks actually were good even after they lost Kareem because
Very good.
they got these 4 good players. And Bridgman was great. He was like 6th man of the year for many years, and he was on that really good Don Nelson team with Bob Lanier and Sidney Moncrief and Marcus Johnson,
Yeah,
Bob
those were good
Dandridge.
teams. Really good
Yes,
teams.
and
Yeah.
Junior Bridgman was a big part of those teams, and he was great. They won the division title 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
5 times. They were good. And he was a big time playoff guy. I mean, he had a big game, 32 points against the Sixers one year. I do remember that too. Um, he was, I'm sad to hear this. Yeah, he was a great guy. And the fact that he did so well after his career and he was so well spoken. And he also, I remember seeing, I'm trying to remember what it was. He did a speech somewhere, and I saw it on something on one of the clips. When it was like last year, sometimes they had a speech, and some guy was talking. I'm like, "Who is that talking?" And they go, "It's Junior Bridgman." I go, "Junior? Wait, that Junior Bridgman?" The guy is amazing. A lot of people wanted to hear his story, but he was also a great leader of men and a leader of people. Sad, very sad, very sad.
Yeah.
And he's 25% owner or 10% owner in the Bucks.
Yeah.
Just bought into the Bucks in 2024.
Yeah, that's a shame. He has his number retired by the Bucks. What I really liked in reading his story is that because of the success of his postseason career and everything he did a lot with the NBA in terms of working with incoming players, present players, even retired players to help them improve their financial literacy, which is great, right? So many guys just kind of, you know, turn their back, when they leave the league, but I mean, he was back in 2016, he was the 4th wealthiest retired athlete in the world behind Michael Jordan, David Beckham, and Arnold Palmer. And, he had like an average income of like $32 million a year. He had Bridgeman Foods. He was a bottler for the Coca-Cola company. I mean, had bottling operations in Canada. This guy was very diverse in his business interests, and it's a fascinating story. And Alex, like you said, it culminated in buying a 10% stake in the Bucks, which is the team he played for 12 of his 14 years. And it's a real shame that he's not going to be able to kind of see that through. After his sudden passing, which from what I read, he was giving a speech somewhere or he was at some event and clutched his chest. So it was just a tragic story to hear because those are the types of folks you want to have around as long as possible to pass on their legacy. So a huge loss and the
And
younger.
respected everywhere, Mike. I mean, he
Oh,
was in the
fantastic.
PGA of America board
Yeah,
of
incredible.
directors, Hall of Fame, NBA Hall of Fame board of governors, Churchill Downs
Wow.
board of directors, University of Louisville board of trustees. I mean, the guy's just
Amazing, right? What an
prolific,
amazing
right?
story.
Like,
Well, did you see where he was? He was at the Galt House. Bridgman died in Louisville, March 11th, after suffering a heart attack at the Galt House Hotel in Louisville. We used to stay there all the time. Remember that
yeah,
place?
yeah.
Terrible.
Wow. Yeah, no.
Unfortunate.
Very
Yeah,
sad. Very
Yeah.
sad to hear.
great
Yeah,
man.
there was a back in college, he I heard a story on the radio about this, and I didn't know about this, but when he was in college, he was at Louisville, and they almost beat the
UCLA.
UCLA John Wooden
Yeah.
team 1 year, and they lost on like free throws. Like their free throw percentage that game was horrible,
Hmm.
and if they had just made like 70% of their free throws, they would have won the game. And they lost to UCLA, and a lot of people feel that that would have been crazy because the finals would have been Louisville, Kentucky, and Kentucky in the
Wow.
finals that year.
Mhm.
But it was crazy. Yeah, they were talking about they were the closest team that ever came to beating during that dynasty to beating them. They had him. In fact, a lot of people say they had him, and they
Mhm.
blew it.
Oh, he
So
also he also owned Ebony and Jet magazines.
yeah, yeah, he bought
Yeah,
them
it
out
looks like he
out
bought them
after
out
they
of
got bankrupt. Yeah,
bankruptcy.
he
Yeah.
bought them out
Yeah,
after they got bankrupt.
yeah, incredible, just an incredible
And
man.
and he became good friends with John Wooden, I heard too, which is
Yeah,
fine after he almost beat them. But that's
yeah,
just
he
it's just
won a
it's
John
just
Wooden Award. He won
yeah.
the Coach Wooden Keys to Life Award in 2001. It's an incredible story. Like just great story.
Yeah, and
Great.
again, you guys, these people who like basketball. If you don't know Junior Bridgman, you better should look. His real name was Ulysses Lee, so I can see why he became Junior. But it's just
But he's a guy you never hear about, right? Like
no,
just one of those guys
Yeah.
that did everything.
he
It
did things
seems
the
like he
right
did
way.
everything the right way,
Yes.
and you never hear about him.
Well,
Yeah, those are the guys we
that's the
should hear
thing.
more about.
Yeah, this is oh yeah, and he was friends. Oh, his teammate at college, his high school teammate was one of them was Tim Stoddard, the old Orioles pitcher.
Oh,
Um,
that's who that is. Oh, yeah, I remember Tim.
yeah, I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I think, holy moly! So, yeah, but the thing is, this is the problem, guys, and we know this. The world we live in now, when people do stupid things, they become popular. But people who do things the right way, you don't hear about it, right? You don't like no one wants to say like, oh, listen, this guy, he did things the right way. He took care of people. He bought out companies that were going bankrupt to get them some money. He he worked to make things better and make a better life for everybody. Oh yeah, and he made a lot of money. But no one wants to say that because he didn't do anything. He didn't kill anybody or beat somebody up or steal something or do something stupid. Um, no one cares about that because
Yeah.
he wasn't dynamic. But man, this guy was a great human being. And again, our heart goes out to your family, you and everybody, Oliver Miller's family, Junior Bridgman, um, John Feinstein. I mean, this is a sad day in sports. You got some, or sad week in sports, a lot of significant things. And
Yeah.
again, good people. We don't, sometimes if it was a jerk who died, yeah, you feel sad, but three good people passing away. Sad, very sad.
I agree.
Okay, so we have a lot going on in college basketball, and I know we have this weekend is the brackets will come out, but there's a lot going on. So, what are your observations so far? Who wants to go first?
We got to give it to Alex because he's been watching all these
Yeah,
games.
okay. I
He's
have
our
been
lead
some, but not
here.
as many as him.
All
Yeah.
right.
So I've been kind of cherry picking some games. One of my kids went to University of Delaware, so I actually followed their run in
So
the
close.
CAA, which they made it all the way to the finals. They won like 4 or 5 games the whole year in the conference,
Hmm.
and they went on this great run and ended up losing in the finals to University of North Carolina Wilmington. It was a very good game, back and forth. They actually had probably within about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 2 or 3 chances to tie the game and just couldn't do it. Led a little bit of the game, but it was a great game, and so that was kind of just a fun game to watch. So UNCW will move on in that, and you'll see them in March Madness. I also watched the Pepperdine. I kept my eye on Pepperdine. They had a similar thing. They didn't have a great season, and I watched them get through to play Santa Clara, which was a great game. And, uh, you know, this is the West Coast Conference, right? So you don't really hear about many teams. Like most people know about St. Mary's and Gonzaga. That's who actually made it to the finals. And believe it or not, Gonzaga was the number 2 seed, and they ended up winning that. So really, for the rest of the country, kind of us out east and in the Midwest, it's just Gonzaga again being there. St. Mary's will probably get into the tournament as well. But there was some intrigue right in the middle there with Pepperdine going on a run, which was kind of interesting. just the Big East tournament started last night with kind of the play-in games, or like the much lower seed games. So I don't think any real surprises there. I know Villanova blew out Seton Hall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wasn't even close. It was like Seton Hall didn't come to play.
Is
Feel bad
Villanova
for
getting in?
What's that?
Is Villanova getting in?
No, I don't think so.
They'd have to run the table and win it.
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, that's the thing.
They had some good wins this year, though, Villanova.
They've had a couple.
Yeah, but it was like over UConn, who had some bad losses too. But
well, they get UConn again tonight.
Yeah. So we'll see. But
Villanova is 19-13. Yeah, well, they'll definitely be in some. They'll definitely be in something, but they might not be in that.
Yeah. You know what? Interesting. I'll tell everybody, keep your eye as you listen to us. North Carolina, right? Like, there's no way North Carolina should make the tournament.
Oh, they're getting in, man.
I know. It's like somehow they're going to snake them in, and there's no way that they belong in the tournament, in my opinion. I mean, the only way they get in is if they win the ACC tournament, in my eyes. And they won the first round game, but I think they're going to have to play Duke.
Yes, but did you see what happened in the Duke game today?
Yeah, Cooper Flagg got hurt.
Cooper Flagg is out, man. He's out.
He's out?
Yup, hurt his ankle. John Shire has said, I don't think he's going to play the rest of the ACC tournament because they're thinking ahead to the NCAA tournament. So, looks like a high ankle sprain. Got carried out by two teammates. Then he was in a wheelchair later. So John Shire said, well, it would take kind of a miracle from the play tomorrow, but then it made it sound like he's not going to play.
He said it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. I agree with him 100%. And with him out of the game, Georgia Tech hung around. Georgia Tech is only 17-16 now, not a very good team. Duke got a really big game from Con Knipple, who had 28, but they're a good team without Cooper Flagg. They are an elite team with Cooper Flagg. So Carolina plays them tomorrow, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Carolina pull this one out and get to the final and play either Clemson or Louisville, who, if Louisville's in a dogfight with Stanford right now, and Clemson's got SMU, but Carolina could get all the way to the ACC final, Alex.
Yeah, I know, and you know what? Crazy. They're gonna put them in if they get that
absolutely.
far. But
Blue Bloods, man,
it's a joke. It's a joke, yeah.
Yeah, they've had a really...
It may save Hubert Davis's job. I don't know. So I obviously had my eye on that. So folks, like I said, keep your eye on North Carolina to see if they get in without winning the ACC. Like I said, I was watching the Big East a little bit. There was some decent games yesterday, but I mean, Villanova just blew out Seton Hall. I can't remember what the earlier game was that I was watching.
St. John's hammered whoever they played, right? They played today, right? They beat Butler.
Yeah.
Today. They beat up on Butler today.
Yeah.
But yesterday, was it DePaul? DePaul upset Georgetown yesterday.
Yeah, I watched that game. And they were both pretty close, right? Like, I mean, I know DePaul was the lower seed.
Yeah.
But what's the guy's name? Is it Calhoun, the coach of Georgetown now? He used to coach.
No, Ed Cooley from Providence.
Ed Cooley,
yeah.
He used to coach Providence, and so I expected them to be better. Like watching them play, it was a sloppy early part of the game, and Dallas Commingy wasn't on the court there for DePaul. Right? So you wish for better for both of those teams, and I think Cooley's going to get him there. I just think he's a great coach, and I'm sure
I agree.
that some alumni will come up with the money so they can start getting some players there.
Yeah, they started off well, Georgetown. They were pretty decent early in the season. I was thinking, wow, Ed Cooley's really turning it around. I think they faltered, and now it looks kind of like a disappointing season. But I thought he did a decent job for the first year. And like you said, Alex, right? We've talked about this. It always comes down to the players and the money. And, so I'm sure they'll be fine. DePaul is actually beating Creighton right now. So DePaul has been terrible for so long. And, they're about 8 minutes from sneaking into the semifinals. So I'm kind of rooting for DePaul to get through in here, but St. John's has just looked terrific. I mean, they hammered Butler. They're in the semifinals now, and I don't know if St. John's gets Marquette next or what that bracket looks like. But the Big East is always a fun tournament to watch.
It's a great tournament, and you know what? I don't think they're going to have many teams that go really far. Honestly, in March Madness.
Yeah, I agree.
Like St. John's, yes, probably. UConn will probably win a couple rounds. I don't know if they're good enough to really push anybody, but outside of that, I wouldn't be surprised if teams just fell left and right. Now, maybe the conference is strong, and Creighton or Marquette, will do well, but I don't foresee it. I mean, you think they go 4 teams in, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get UConn, St. John's, Marquette, Creighton. Xavier lost today to Marquette. I don't know if that knocks them out, but
close game. They lost by 2.
Marquette's a quirky team because I've really liked them, and I like Shaka Smart. But the more I watch them over the last couple of years, it's like the less impressed I am with them because Shaka Smart kind of set himself up as this rising coach, and it was based on that really hectic defense that they played at VCU when he got them to the Final Four, which they called Havoc. And then he went to Texas, and it didn't work out there for him. I thought the school was too big. I feel like he's great in like a mid-major situation or like a Marquette type situation, but they don't defend as well as I expect a Shaka Smart team to defend. So I don't know. They're just not the team I expected them to be. St. John's, on the other hand, defends like a bunch of wild dogs out there. They're going to be a nightmare.
They have to because they generally don't score.
Yeah, they don't shoot the ball well at all. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how far they can go. But yeah, the Big East just playing in the Garden, I think, is just so electric. Like it's just the best atmosphere.
It's the best. It's
it's
the best stadium. It's the best stadium to watch basketball. Actually, hockey and basketball. I'm sorry. It's just a great place. It's a great place for sports. Acoustics, crowd, setup, view. I mean, it really is.
There's no
energy.
Seats.
Yeah, the energy comes
the food is great there.
Actually, the food is really good now. You're right.
It's great, yeah.
What do you guys think about what happened with Rutgers and SC? That was so sad. Double overtime loss.
Yeah, you can't win with freshmen.
Yeah.
Right? Like
they had the lead, right? It was they had the lead. They had the ball. They got 2 free throws. The guy missed them both. They SC came back and scored, tied it, and then Dylan Harper missed a 20-footer at the buzzer.
Yeah.
It's like they had the chance. They did. They had it in their this was at the end of regulation. They should have done it.
Yeah, I really think freshmen and sophomores are just going to be completely devalued, and you're going to have to, all the big teams are just going to recruit from the other teams and pick the best players every year that are already in college.
Yeah.
They're going to do very light recruiting in high school. And I think Rutgers was kind of using a model from like 5 years ago, which is like, we can get these 2 great players. Don't blame them at all. But I think every other team was like ahead of the curve. Like, dude, you're going to have 2 freshmen. So what? We're going to have, the best players that are already juniors and seniors.
Yeah, agree.
So, it's great. It'll be great if they stay. I don't think there's a chance that Bailey and Harper stay. But if they stay, it would be great. And if Rutgers can come up with the money to keep them to stay, that's awesome. But the money they'll make in the NBA will just far outweigh, I think, what they would make.
So, again, I originally thought at the beginning of the year that Ace Bailey was better than Harper, but I really feel that Harper's better now. I just think maybe he's just more mature.
He took some bad shots, though. Now, Bailey was in all sorts of foul trouble in that game. He had 3 fouls, I think, in the first half, and it was like Harper by himself out there, but he was taking some bad shots.
Yeah, I'm sad. I'm sad that I wanted to see like some kind of a comeback, but now they're out. That's it. They're not going to the NIT. They're not going to. There's no way.
Somebody in the stands had a great shirt. It was a student, and it said "College basketball needs New Jersey," and he was obviously a Rutgers fan, but. I don't know how many teams are going to be representing this year because Seton Hall's not getting in. Rutgers is not getting in. St. Peter's is not getting in.
No.
So
Monmouth is not getting in.
Princeton's not getting in. So I don't think New Jersey's going to have any teams in the tournament this year.
I did not realize how bad Seton Hall is. They only won 7 games all
Yeah.
year and only 2 in the Big East. What in the
Yeah.
world
And
happened with Shaheen Holloway? Did they? Well, they lost.
they lost the kid to St.
To
John's.
St. John's, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Which is like what everyone's going to do. It's become this mad race to steal players from each other. Because I saw that Minnesota fired their coach Ben Johnson today, who was a Minnesota grad, and he took over when Richard Pitino left, and he had been an assistant at Xavier for 3 years, and this was his first head coaching job, and he was losing his best players every single year, and he made a comment during the season about like it's all about money. Like he said what everybody knows, but some coaches and some administrators don't want to say. He said it's all about money, and he was the lowest paid coach in the Big Ten. I'm sure that Minnesota basketball had a very small NIL budget for basketball as well. So,
Which can't Kevin McHale give up some shekels to that poor organization? Come on.
he should be able to, right?
Right?
Didn't make enough as a player, I guess, and didn't follow the junior Bridgeman model, maybe. But yeah, I mean, Minnesota, you kind of forget that they're even in the Big Ten. They kind of, all these conferences have packed in additional teams, and they're an afterthought. Richard Pitino did a very nice job there, and now he's at New Mexico doing well for himself. So it's really hard to follow who's good and why they're good.
And I think Pitino actually came out, in defense of Seton Hall. And, he said, and I can't remember the kid's name that left to go to St. John's, but he said the kid didn't want to leave. He loved his coach and this and that, but he's like, we had more money and we offered more money than Seton Hall. But I think Seton Hall's got some new facilities, and hopefully they get, some alum in there to give them a few $1 million each year to go out and get some players. Because if not, they're just going to sink to the bottom of the Big East. Because I think Georgetown is going to get better, and Creighton and Xavier, and they always seem to be up there. So it'd be disappointing because Seton Hall's been such a great program for so long.
Yeah, Kadari Richmond is the guy, and basically what they did is St. John's took a very seasoned Big East player who is a man and added him to their roster, and that's what you need at this point. Like you said, Alex, it's those high school kids come in and they're just getting thrashed by those juniors and seniors that are grown men, and they're getting paid, and there's an incentive for those kids to play well, or those men to play well, and these high school kids are just getting trampled. But look, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper are both going to be lottery picks in the draft, so I don't see why they would stay. And heck, if they stay, maybe they go somewhere else. They're not going to stay at Rutgers.
Well, and we're still in the COVID thing too, right? Like you still have guys that have been there for 6 years, and that have had the ability to play. I think this year or next year is the last year.
Yeah, this has to be the end. I think
you would think.
My gosh,
but sad, but okay. Well, again, New Jersey basketball not good. A couple years ago, it was pretty darn good. There was a lot of teams that had a chance to get in. Now we don't.
FDU, right?
Well, Princeton used to be a perennial in, right? Yeah. Seton Hall was always in,
and even St. Peter's was
Peter's
off and on.
They had a great year a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Which got the coach at Seton Hall his job, right?
Right. Yeah. Who is it? Did Yale win the Ivy League?
No, their tournament's this weekend, right?
Oh, they have a tournament this week. It's just the top 4, though, right?
Yeah, just the top 4, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yale is darn good. Yale could actually win a game.
They're always they last year they upset Auburn. They beat Auburn.
They could win a game in the tournament. If you're depending on who their matchup is, they could win a game, sneak a game in.
So Princeton plays Yale. Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, Cornell. Interesting.
Wait, who is it, Mike?
I see Princeton, Yale, and then Dartmouth, Cornell.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I didn't realize that Dartmouth was good.
Because the last I saw, they didn't have a very good record.
Wow, Yale really ran away with the conference, 13-1. Cornell ended up 4 games back. Princeton 8-6. Dartmouth is only 14-13 overall. So fascinating. It is a fun tournament, though.
Yeah, Princeton was 19-10. That's actually not that bad, really.
Yeah, pretty good.
They had a lot of points against, though.
And they were 8-6 in the conference.
Yeah,
I mean they were 4th in the conference. which for Princeton, that's pretty bad. They're usually up at the top.
Yeah, Yale's kind of taken over that conference the last handful of years.
Yeah.
Harvard was pretty good with Tommy Amaker as well, but yeah, it's and then Columbia. I think Alex, you said they should just get rid of their sports program. They stink at basketball. I mean,
They're good at rowing though. They're a good rowing team.
sure they are, but
The one guy from ESPN went there, right? The football
I don't
player.
know, really?
Oh, I got to look it up.
I don't know. Well, okay, so I think that's a crazy thing going on. Any new signings in football that have piqued your interest? I know Aaron Rodgers is not anywhere. Sam Darnold is now in Seattle, which again, I don't know how big of a deal that is for them.
I mean, how crazy is it to think a sport that basically you have to have a good quarterback? Think about all the teams that are going to have a new quarterback next year.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields is on the Jets. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to say about that.
To me, the Jets and the Giants are the same team. Like, you hear the people on the radio talk like, oh, the Jets got their quarterback and this and that, and the Giants are in disarray. I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you watched Justin Fields play football? Like, you've basically just given up the next 2 years. Like, you may win some games, but you're not going to go anywhere with Justin Fields. I mean, he couldn't beat out Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson is spent and still unsigned.
He might be on the Giants, Alex. We might get him.
I know. You know what? The Giants should just, I don't even want Aaron Rodgers. I think they should just draft a guy and do it the old, they should have signed like Mariota or somebody like that and stuck him in there and
who's serviceable. He's not going to see Mariota will not hurt you, but he's not really going to help you that much, but he's not going to kill you. I think you don't want because what's his name still out there?
Marcellus Wiley is the guy I was thinking about from Columbia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Marcellus Wiley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Jameis Winston's still out there, right?
No, come on.
Yeah. So I heard a lot of chatter about the Giants picking up Winston.
Because he's be entertaining. But why
he throws
bother?
so many interceptions.
I know. Like,
maybe he's colorblind.
That could be the problem. Maybe you get him those special glasses, it changes his whole career.
Because when he's good, he's really good.
Yeah, for 3 quarters.
Yeah, famous Jameis. Come on.
Yeah. No, he could just disrupt. And it's just amazing, that guy. I've had him as my fantasy quarterback, and sometimes he's great, and then the next day you look, I go, what? He threw 5 interceptions. Like, what? And it's like the guy is, oh my God, he's just night and day. And I don't know if you've seen him in the Hard Knocks. You watch him in Hard Knocks, you're going to hate him more. He's such an annoying man.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston?
Yeah, he's annoying chatterbox.
He's like a jokester. People say that's just the way he is, but like, I don't know. Like, okay, you'll have a loose locker room. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think the Giants have actually made some really good moves on defense, and I think they're just being like, look, we have to make the defense so good because we don't know if we're going to have a quarterback. And, young quarterbacks can win with great defenses like Ben Roethlisberger and Eli and Tom Brady. And, they won because of the defense, and not that they weren't great, but
Mark
they
Sanchez
also won because of the defense. But Brian, the Jets have to pick a quarterback, right? Or no?
They have to pick a quarterback. Justin Fields is not going to win. Now, again, him and Garrett Wilson are really good friends, and they went to college together. But does that make him bet? Is he going to be good? He can't throw the ball.
Yeah, he can't throw the ball like 15 yards down the field.
He might set the Jets quarterback rushing records, but I mean that's not going to be. He can't throw the ball. It just you can't have a quarterback who can't throw. It just doesn't. It's like it's like a kicker that can't kick. All right, we got this kicker. He's a good athlete. Oh, good. Can he kick? No, but he's a good athlete.
I just hear like on the fan, like, they're talking about this, like, okay, well the Jets are set. I'm like, the Jets are set. What are you kidding me?
No, they're not set.
Like,
my brother sent me, oh yeah, we got Fields. I'm like, I don't know if that's good.
No.
Now here's another tidbit about an ex-Jet. Believe it, he was more of a ex. He played on a lot of teams actually. Did you hear this thing about Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah.
He lost a civil lawsuit brought by his cousin who claimed he sexually abused her since she was 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, no.
What a jerk.
And he never showed up for court, never did anything. and ultimately lost, and then $25 million suit. And now he's coming out saying, whoa, I never got that. I didn't know I was going to court, all this crap. Like, come on.
Le'Veon Bell's the guy who sat out a year, right?
Yeah.
He sat out a year.
That ruined his career.
Totally did.
Yeah, because when he came back after missing all seasons, you can't not play professional football for a year and then walk out there and try to be.
Well, he said, "Listen, you guys aren't going to pay me. I'm sitting out." Thinking, and they said, "Okay, we're calling your bluff."
Yeah,
He should have known. His agent should have known. The Steelers would have. They're no way the Steelers going to cave. They called his bluff.
This is the NFL.
I can tell you right now, I had him on my fantasy league that year. I lost the whole year from him. It was like a total waste of my time.
Now the free agency move that surprised me a bit was I thought the Vikings wanted to keep Daniel Jones, didn't they?
I think they did, but he was a free agent, so his contract was up, so he could pick. So it actually came down between the Colts and the Vikings. I don't know why he picked the Colts.
I agree. I saw that. I thought, to me, thinking about Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold left, and Kevin O'Connell revitalized Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, I can stay with this quarterback whisperer who turned Sam Darnold into a superstar and got him a ton of money, and I can just compete with J.J. McCarthy, is a rookie who's coming off of knee surgery. I think you've got a legitimate shot at winning that job in Minnesota. It's a very good team too, and you're playing with you're playing for Kevin O'Connell, and then he goes to the Colts where he's going to compete with Anthony Richardson, and I'm thinking the Colts. I don't know that the Colts have this dynamic offense or a coordinator or a head coach that's a quarterback guru. I was like, Minnesota sounds like a great situation for him, and he left. I'm like, I don't understand why he would not just stay in Minnesota and compete with J.J. McCarthy and learn.
I like Kevin O'Connell better, but Shane Steichen he's a good coach and he's a good offensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I would lean towards that, but maybe he just felt like, hey, they're going with JJ McCarthy, and I know they're going with them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and I can either be the backup here, and maybe the offer wasn't good. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or I think he only got $14 million for a year to go to the Colts, but maybe he just feels like I can win that job, and I think the Colts may try to trade Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, he's had some injuries, a lot of injuries already for such a young quarterback.
Injuries, and the game where he kind of tapped out.
Came out. Yeah, that's hard to forget. That's a good point. It's very hard for teammates and coaches to forget that.
Yeah, I mean he's a immensely talented guy, but he didn't even do that much stuff in college. It was a lot of like ESPN highlights versus sustained success, game over game, big wins. And I think that's what you have to look at with quarterbacks coming out. You look at like what Zach Wilson did. We talked about this a million times. He did nothing in college. He beat no good teams, and he just wasn't NFL ready. And maybe in 3 years he will be if he sits behind some other guys and gets the right coaching. But I think Anthony Richards the same story, right? Like he didn't play that many games in college, and you have to. It's almost like you look at like Bo Nix played a ton of games, and that's why I'm so intrigued by Dylan Gabriel.
I agree. Yeah.
He's like the same thing as Bo Nix. Now, it may be the coach, right? Sean Payton's a great coach, great offensive coach. So, but, if I were the Jets, would I take him? Dylan Gabriel? Maybe, if they don't move up or they move back. I mean, even if the Giants, like, pick Abdul Carter, pick Travis Hunter, and then pick a quarterback later. Because even if he doesn't work out, you're going to stink next year anyway. You're going to get another shot at a quarterback, I think. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and then Dylan Gabriel's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder now, too, because I guess they're questioning his height. I guess he would be like the third or fourth shortest quarterback. I guess he's under 6 feet or something. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's a winner, and that's what he has said. He said, hey, I've won at every level, and has won a ton of games and had a lot of big game experience as well over his career as well. So I don't think you could discount that stuff either. But yeah.
So a lot of good things in the NFL, Bryan, but a lot of time to talk about that in the future.
Yeah, we will. We didn't even talk about Zach Wilson going to Miami. So that's another.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been a great episode. We Our next one will be definitely NCAA related, and we probably put our brackets together.
Yes.
And so we will do that next week. And everybody have a wonderful weekend.
Have a good night.
Enjoy the madness.
This is Tom Carvel. Thank you for listening to 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast. Remember to get a Fudgy the Whale or Cookie Puss for the next time you're sitting down to watch the big game.